What if I told you that one quiet whisper from a single dad, a man everyone overlooked, stopped a room full of millionaires in their tracks and unlocked an $18 million decision that would change countless lives forever? Stay with me, because this isn't just about money. It's about courage, compassion, and how the smallest voice in the room can create the biggest miracle. Before we dive into this incredible story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss our powerful, life-changing content. Just checking. The single dad whispered, $18 million changed the room in seconds. I remember the exact sound of my shoes on the hospital floor. Soft, careful, almost apologetic. When you're a single dad, you learn to walk that way, like the world is already carrying too much, and you don't want to add to the noise. My daughter Lily was 8 years old when the doctors found the tumor. 8, an age meant for missing front teeth and chasing butterflies, not chemotherapy schedules and insurance calls. Her mother had passed away 3 years earlier. Since then, it had just been the two of us against everything. I worked double shifts as a janitor at the bank downtown. Nights mostly. Mornings were for packing lunches, braiding messy ponytails, and pretending I wasn't afraid. But fear is a way of sitting beside you even when you don't invite it. The day everything changed, I wasn't supposed to be in that conference room. The bank executives were meeting about some major account. $18 million. I overheard someone say. I didn't understand the details. Numbers that big don't belong in the world I live in. I was just there to empty the trash. I pushed my cart quietly, keeping my head down. Then I heard Lily's name. Not her name exactly, but the name of the Children's Hospital Foundation. The one that had been helping us. The one that covered part of her treatments when my insurance ran out. My hands froze on the cart handle. The executives were discussing cutting their annual donation. Times are tight, one of them said. Tight! I thought of the hospital bills folded neatly in my locker. I thought of Lily's small hand squeezing mine during her treatments. Tight! I didn't mean to speak. I never speak in rooms like that. But something inside me refused to stay silent. I stepped forward slightly and cleared my throat. Excuse me, I said softly. Every head turned. I felt my face burn. I'm sorry. I was just checking the trash. A few polite smiles. Impatient glances. I just wanted to say, that hospital you're talking about. My voice shook. They saved my daughter's life. Silence filled the room in a way I had never felt before. Not awkward. Heavy. Honest. I told them about Lily. About the night she cried because her hair was falling out. About the nurse who sang to her during chemo. About the volunteer who brought her a stuffed rabbit when I couldn't afford a birthday present. I didn't ask them for money. I didn't beg. I just told the truth. And then I whispered, almost to myself, I'm just checking if you know what your donation really does. The room felt different, like the air had shifted. The CEO, a woman I had only ever seen from a distance, removed her glasses slowly. She asked me to sit. No one had ever asked me to sit at that table before. She asked about Lily, about her favorite color, about her dreams. I told them Lily wanted to be a doctor, so kids won't be scared. One executive wiped his eyes discreetly. Another stared at his hands. And then the CEO did something none of us expected. She said, not only are we keeping the donation, we're increasing it. She turned to her team. $18 million. To the Children's Hospital Foundation. The number hung in the air. 18 million. It was more money than I could imagine in 10 lifetimes. And it changed the room in seconds. But the real change wasn't the number. It was the understanding. In that moment, I wasn't the janitor. I wasn't invisible. I was a father. And they saw me. Weeks later, Lily's doctor told us the new funding meant upgraded equipment, more staff, and expanded treatment programs. More children would be treated. More fathers wouldn't have to choose between rent and medicine. More mothers would get hope instead of silence. Lily is 12 now, cancer-free. Her hair's grown back thicker than ever. Sometimes she visits the hospital to hand out coloring books to kids in treatment. She says, I'm just checking on them. And every time she says it, I smile, because I know what those words can do. I still work at the bank, but now, when I walk through those halls, I don't feel small. I feel proud, not because of the $18 million, but because I learned something priceless. Even the quietest voice can shake a room when it speaks with love. Even the smallest step forward can open the largest doors. And sometimes, all it takes to change the world is someone brave enough to whisper, "I'm just checking." Moral lesson: never underestimate the power of sincerity. Kindness multiplied becomes transformation. And when you speak from love, even the largest rooms will listen. And yet, that wasn't the end of our story. Because money can change buildings, but love changes people. A few months after the donation, the CEO asked if I would share my story at the hospital's annual fundraiser. I almost said no. Public speaking terrified me. I was comfortable with mops and quiet hallways, not spotlights. But Lily squeezed my hand and said, "Daddy, you were brave once. You can be brave again." So I stood on that stage wearing my only suit, the one I had bought for my wife's funeral. It felt different now, less heavy, more hopeful. The room was filled with business leaders, doctors, nurses, and families like mine. I told them about the fear, about the exhaustion, about the nights I cried in the car so Lily wouldn't see. But I also told them about the nurse who held my shoulder when I thought I would collapse, about strangers who paid for our cafeteria meals, about kindness that arrived quietly, without applause. When I finished, the room stood up, not for me, for the reminder that we belong to each other. After that night, something unexpected happened. The bank created a scholarship fund for children of employees facing medical hardship, not just for executives, for everyone. Tellers, security guards, janitors. They named it the Lily Fund. I cried when I saw the plaque, not because my daughter's name was on it, but because her pain had become someone else's protection. Years passed. Lily grew stronger, brighter, kinder than I ever imagined. She studied harder than anyone I knew, and when she was accepted into medical school, she framed a letter and placed it next to her old hospital bracelet. "Proof," she said, smiling, "that hard days don't win." On her first day of volunteering as a medical intern at the same hospital that treated her, she walked into a young patient's room. The boy was scared. His father looked the way I once did, tired beyond words. Lily pulled up a chair. She spoke gently. She listened carefully. And before leaving, she whispered, "I'm just checking on you." I saw that father's shoulders drop, just a little, like mine once had. That's when I understood something deeper. $18 million changed a room, but compassion changed a legacy. I still clean offices at night, but sometimes I look out the window of the bank's top floor and see the city lights flickering. Each light is a story. Each story carries struggle. And somewhere in those struggles, there's always someone ready to care, if we dare to speak. Life tested me in ways I never asked for. It broke me. It reshaped me. It taught me that dignity doesn't come from wealth. It comes from courage. And courage often sounds like a whisper. I used to think I was just a single dad, just a janitor, just checking the trash. Now I know better. There is no just in love. There is no just in showing up. There is no just in telling the truth. Because sometimes the smallest voice in the room carries the greatest weight. And sometimes the greatest miracles begin with words so soft they almost dissipate. "I'm just checking." And every time those words are spoken with sincerity, another room changes. And the rooms kept changing. Not always with applause, not always with headlines, but quietly, steadily, like sunrise. One winter evening, years later, I was finishing my shift when I saw a young man sitting alone in the bank lobby. He looked nervous, clutching a folder too tightly, the kind of tight that tells you life hasn't been gentle. I recognized that look. I had worn it once. I almost walked past him. After all, I was just a janitor, but something in me refused to ignore him. I slowed down, soft steps again, careful, almost apologetic. "Everything okay?" I asked. He hesitated, then nodded, then shook his head. "My daughter's in the hospital," he said quietly. The words hit me like an echo from years ago. "I'm here to ask about the Lily Fund." My throat tightened. I sat beside him on the polished floor, not across a desk. Beside him, he told me about the diagnosis, the fear, the bills stacking up like silent threats. And I listened, not as a hero, not as a speaker from a stage, just as a father who understood. When the bank approved his assistance the next day, he cried in the lobby, right there in front of everyone. And I didn't feel embarrassed for him. I felt proud of him, because asking for help takes more courage than giving it. Weeks later, Lily invited me to the hospital for a special announcement. She was now officially Dr. Lily Rahman. White coat, gentle smile, strong hands that had once trembled during 4 insertions, now steady and sure. The hospital had expanded an entire pediatric wing funded by the original donation, and the continued support it inspired. On the wall, beneath a simple plaque, were words engraved in silver. Kindness multiplies. The CEO, older now, softer somehow, shook my hand. You didn't just change our budget that day, she told me. You changed our priorities. I thought back to that trembling moment. The mop bucket beside me, the fear in my chest, the whisper that almost stayed trapped behind my teeth. It would have been so easy to remain silent, so easy to believe my voice didn't matter. But pain has a way of polishing truth until it shines, and love gives the courage to speak. That night, Lily and I walked home under a sky full of stars. She slipped her arm through mine like she used to when she was small. Daddy, she said softly, do you ever think about how different everything could have been? I nodded. Yes. She smiled. But it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Because people chose compassion. Because someone listened. Because a room full of power paused long enough to feel. And because a tired single father dared to whisper instead of walk away. Now, whenever I see someone standing at the edge of a room, unsure, unheard, unseen, I try to be the first to notice. I try to be the one who says, come sit. Because I have learned something precious. We don't always need millions to change a life. Sometimes we just need a moment, a listening ear, a brave word, a gentle check-in. The world still has suffering. Hospitals still have long nights. Parents still sit in parked cars and cry where no one can see. But there are also rooms waiting to be changed, hearts waiting to open, and voices waiting to rise. And somewhere, right now, another father is standing in the corner of a room he feels too small to enter. Maybe his hands are shaking. Maybe his hope feels thin. But maybe, just maybe, he will clear his throat and whisper, I'm just checking. And the room will change again. Because love does not end. It continues. It echoes. It grows. And so does this story. Years have passed now. My hair has turned gray at the edges. My hands ache a little more after long shifts. But my heart feels lighter than it ever did before. Lily is no longer the fragile little girl I once carried into treatment rooms. She is a doctor with steady hands and a fearless heart. Sometimes I sit quietly in the back of the pediatric wing and watch her speak to worried parents. I see the way she kneels so she's eye level with the children. I hear the softness in her voice, and I recognize it. It's the same softness that once lived in a whisper. I'm just checking. One evening, as the sun poured golden light through the hospital windows, Lily handed me something wrapped in tissue paper. Inside was a small silver key. For what? I asked. She smiled. They named a family support room after you. I shook my head. No, sweetheart, none of this was me. She took my hand, the same way she used to when she was afraid. Yes, Daddy, it was. Because you taught me that courage doesn't shout. It speaks gently, and it speaks anyway. We walked to the room together. On the wall was a simple plaque, in honor of a father who reminded us that every voice matters. I stood there quietly, not overwhelmed by pride, but by gratitude. Gratitude for the nurse who sang, for the volunteer with the stuffed rabbit, for the executive who chose compassion over comfort, for every kind heart that stepped forward when we were too tired to move. I realized something beautiful in that moment. $18 million changed the room, but one honest whisper changed the world. And the world keeps changing, not because of wealth or titles or power, but because ordinary people choose extraordinary kindness. If there's anything my life has taught me, it is this. You are never just anything. Not just a janitor. Not just a parent. Not just a stranger in the corner. Your story carries weight. Your voice carries power. And your compassion can travel farther than you will ever see. So when you feel small, when you feel unseen, when you wonder if speaking up will matter, Remember a tired single father who once cleared his throat in a quiet room. Remember how love moved through that space and multiplied. And don't be afraid to whisper your truth, because sometimes the gentlest words create the greatest change. Moral lesson: never underestimate the power of sincerity and courage. Kindness spoken from the heart can transform lives beyond imagination. Even the smallest voice, when guided by love, can change the world. Thank you for listening to this heartfelt story. If it touched your heart, please share it, leave a comment below, and remind someone today, you are never alone.